Good evening and welcome to the 2016 SGA Debate. My name is Mariah Bean and I'm serving this year as this year's election commissioner and moderator for this debate. Tonight we're hosting the executive candidates who are on the ballot for the SGA elections. So as a note to everyone, elections begin tomorrow and run through Thursday, April 7th until 5 p.m. So 5 p.m. is pretty important. And then election results will be announced at 6:30 on Thursday. So the format for this debate is going to be the vice presidents followed by the presidents debating one another. We're not hosting this evening a debate among student services director candidates because there's only one person, Caitlin McCandless, who's on the ballot for that position. So for everyone's knowledge, the format for responses this evening will be the following. You'll have a 1 minute and 30-second opening statement from each candidate, followed by minute responses to any questions that I give. They're able to rebuttal one another. In the instance that they're not mentioned by one of the candidates, they have a 30-second rebuttal, and the person whom they've been rebutted by can also rebuttal for another 30 seconds. And then if they are mentioned directly, they have a minute to rebuttal if they're mentioned directly. And then following everything, they have a 2-minute closing statement. So I just ask the audience if you will all please remain respectful whenever everyone's speaking. I'll call you out if you're a little too loud. But if you do want to have some dialogue among one another, you can do a live stream of Twitter. We're not going to post it just so it's not distracting for any of the candidates. But if you use the official hashtag Utk Sga Debate, you can see what everyone else is live tweeting and have your own conversations. Just don't talk too loud while everyone else is speaking and just be respectful of everyone's time. So we will begin this evening by having Mackenzie, Matthew, and Fuller come up to the stage to begin the vice presidential debate. All right, so for opening statements, we will have Mackenzie speak first, following by Matthew, and then Fuller, if you would like to each give your opening statements.
Okay, well, I guess that's me. I'm glad we get to do this debate tonight. You deserve to really know what our intentions are and our motivations are, and I hope that if nothing else, if you've never heard me speak before or know me personally, then you'll get to know me through this. I love this university so much, but the reason I do is because the students I've met on this campus have truly made me who I am. Every bit of character that I amount myself to, I owe to the students, whether that's been through my roles as a resident assistant on campus or an orientation leader, or just getting to know people through the Center for Leadership and Service. The people here on this campus are real, and they want to pursue each other, and they want to truly know what it means to be a student and what it means to be a Tennessee volunteer, and they love each other. And there's nothing that I want to do more than represent that student really well and make sure that SGA is the channel that makes sure that they are heard and pursued and valued and feel truly and honestly represented on this campus that they love and they represent so well every single day.
All right, well, my name's Matthew. Normally when I give or speak in front of this many people, I'm giving tours, so sorry if you drop any fun facts about Hodges Library or anything like that. I guess I'd like to say why I'm running. I believe in every single student at this university, just like Mackenzie just said. I think it's truly what makes this university so unique and so special, is that the people that come to school every single day and try and better themselves, but also better this community. And I think that it's those people that deserve an SGA that refocuses the attention by administration on the student experience. I'm all for improving in the rankings, and I'm all for improving the University of Tennessee's image, but I also want to make sure that every single student's voice is heard, every single student feel welcome, they feel safe, and they want to come to the University of Tennessee, because I sure do love it, and I want every single other student to feel comfortable to be able to feel like that.
Hey everyone, before I start, I want to talk about something that happened on campus earlier today. Earlier today, someone wrote next to the torchbearer KKK. That is not something we should have happening on our campus. Our campaign, the Challenge campaign, has been advocating for genuine dialogue between all students, and this event shows that that definitely needs to be happening now. And a little bit about myself, I'm Fuller Edwards, and I'm a Haslam College of Business peer mentor. I've been SGA Senate for 2 years, and I'm a part of the Student Conduct Board and the Greek Judicial Board, and I'm a Sigma Chi fraternity member. I think it's safe to say that we all love UT.
Yeah, definitely.
And Senate this year, honestly, it's kind of been a mess. I never planned on running for vice president, but I kind of saw what was going on around Senate this year. We've had parliamentary issues. We've had a million emergency meetings, and we haven't been able to go through legislation in the proper amount of time, be able to discuss it, and that's why I want to run for vice president. I want to be able to make sure that we can be a voice for the students and not to the students.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So the first question will be responded to first by Fuller, and then Mackenzie, and then Matthew. So for our first question, we have, all of you have differing campus experiences that have developed you as a leader. As vice president, you serve as president of the Senate. Please answer, what from your experiences has best equipped you to lead Senate next year?
Okay. To start off, I'd say being at Haslam College of Business peer mentor has really helped me prepare for leading the first-year council. As a peer mentor, I help transition first-year students into the College of Business, and I want to use that experience to help start the mentor program that was planned for this year in Senate and allow first-year council members to be paired with members of student services and members of student senate, and so they can get to know SGA better, get involved more, and hopefully stick around for the next year. Because right now, first-year council turnout for staying in SGA is very low, and that's something I want to help improve. Also, me being a senator for 2 years, I'm the only candidate right now on this table that's been Senate for 2 years, and I feel like I have good experience. I know how Senate should be run. I'm an avid speaker during Senate for what students want and don't want when it comes to legislation, and I feel like that really helps me run. That will help me run Senate if I'm elected vice president.
So when you think of Senate and you think of the role that it plays, its main goal has to be to go out and pursue the student body that it's representing. You're making policy and legislation that ultimately impacts every student on this campus, and you have to make sure that you're looking to your constituents and only doing the things that they want to see. And so that breeds a lot of passionate people in that organization. And what I've done on this campus, all I've done is work with passionate students. I know how to work with passion, and I want to breed passion and to feed into it and to thrive with it, and to make sure that as the Senate runs throughout the entire year, it's pursuing the student body, but not only what the senators want to see happen, but also going out and making a concerted effort to make sure that all the students' voices are heard and their constituents specifically, and building that passion for them that they have for what they do. And I've done that the entire time I've been here.
I think what qualifies me to be the president of the Senate is having both the experience inside and outside of SGA, whether that be from freshman year, being on it was then freshman council, now it's first year council. Getting to see the work that Paige Ashley, the vice president back then, did, from being on the Senate leadership team as a student lobbyist, being able to see the behind the scenes work that Madison Call does every single day, and to create a Senate that really promotes open debate, that really improves the ideas of everyone. I'd like to bring that experience to the student Senate next year. I think also being outside of SGA has really kind of let me see the perspectives of students that aren't in an organization, that don't feel like their opinions are getting valued outside of election week. And it's those students that I want to create the Senate for. It's their legislative body, and that's what I want it to be.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And just for timeliness, I ask if you hold your applause until closing statements, please. So next question will first be answered by Matthew, and then Fuller, and then Mackenzie. So as mentioned as VP, you serve as the president of the Senate. In addition, you also manage the first-year council, as y'all have talked about. First-year council, though, seems to have less of an emphasis on the platforms this year than Senate does. How do you plan to balance these two facets of your potential position, and is FYC a priority for you?
Well, I think sometimes during this election cycle, the first-year council role, or being the chair of the first-year council, is something that is kind of forgotten as the vice president. As a former or first-year council, freshman council member, I've seen that there's no other student body on this campus that really knows and understands the impact that freshmen need and want. No one understands the issues that freshmen face, just like freshmen. So I think placing a great emphasis on both bodies, not just the one or the other, being able to have a more open relationship between the two so they can truly feel a part of the legislative body on our campus, as I believe that they are, and really foster a positive relationship between the two bodies.
Yeah, like I kind of talked about earlier, I really think first-year council is important. It's important to get first-year students involved in SGA from the beginnings and keep them involved so they can talk about what's going on campus and spread it to people going across the campus. And like I said before, I want to help implement the peer, or not the mentor system for SGA so those first-year students can get more involved. They can see what's going on in SGA, and they can see, hey, I want to go into undergraduate Senate next year, or I want to be involved in student services. It's important to get freshmen involved, and because they'll stay involved, and they're eager, they want to learn, and it's really important, and I think we can do a good job. It won't just be me leading the first-year council. We'll be having a first-year advisor, and the rest of the Senate exec will be helping the first-year students get involved and just stay in SGA, and that's something that's really important.
So first-year students rock my world. They're part of they're my favorite part of being a student leader on campus so far. I've been an orientation leader, worked with students coming right out of the gate. Doing Ignite this summer, I lead a freshman Bible study in South Carrick. I've been an RA, worked with students who consider themselves campus leaders right when they get here and those who never would. And I know the heart of a first-year student and the potential, and that's something that I really value because it has to be grasped right when they come through the door, and you have to show them that their leadership is something that's going to be developed every single year, because freshmen, first-year students, they turn into sophomores, turn into juniors, turn into seniors, and they're ultimately going to make a huge impact on this campus, and they do need to be involved in SGA from the very first start. I'd like to see first-year council be more of a leadership development aspect of SGA, so that whenever they do get to the point to where they're leading campus through policy and legislation, they have the leadership skills to do that effectively.
Thank you, everyone. So next question regards our member-at-large seats in Senate. So our Senate stands out from other institutions in that we have 10 of our 60 seats designated as member-at-large. It is up to the discretion of the vice president to choose who fills these seats. What are your plans in filling these seats, and how do you intend on going about this process? This question will first be answered by Mackenzie, followed by Matthew, and then Fuller.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a good question. I think that one problem that we've seen in this election season is that it's very evident that there are certain parts of campus and student groups that are not currently feeling represented by SGA. And how are we going to incorporate them? For instance, the push for appreciating and understanding and really identifying with diversity is something that we've seen a lot this semester. And there are people on this campus who are so passionate and spend their entire student leadership experience devoted to making sure that their fellow students understand diversity and can appreciate it too. That voice and others like it need to be heard in SGA. Same goes for students who serve in the Center for Health, Education, and Wellness. I think that that's another group that is very knowledgeable and very passionate about one aspect of campus and doesn't always get heard and listened to. And that's another seat. That's just two examples of ones that I would implement.
Well, I think I've currently seen the benefit of the at-large members of our student senate and the value that it places, being able to reach out to student organizations, student groups that don't feel always welcome on campus. I think one thing that I would continue to do is follow in Madison's footsteps and reach out to these student advisors, but also the faculty advisors to pick out, nominate students that really understand the interests, that are willing to fight, that have the leadership in certain places that are not student senate, but that can bring that outside voice to truly represent the entire student population and create common ground.
Yes, I really want to add at-large senators that are really going to represent the far reaches of this campus. I want to be able to add ROTC students, LGBT students, veteran students, and represent student organizations that aren't always heard from people around our campus. It's really important that we make SGA a voice to the students, or a voice for the students and not to the students. And the first step in doing that is making sure that SGA has a well-rounded Senate that has representatives from all across campus.
Thank you. And then on a note regarding Senate as a whole, a major part of your campaigns aren't up here, and that's your senators. While your campaigns run on leadership and policy, senators are the individuals who set the legislative agenda for this year and have the potential to enact even further change for our campus. How did you all recruit your senators running with your campaign, and what did you strive for when recruiting them? This question would be answered first by Fuller, then Mackenzie, then Matthew.
When we sought out the senators we wanted to run for our campaign, we tried to looked at first-year students because, again, we wanted to get them involved and make sure they stay involved through the 4-year process of being a student at the University of Tennessee. Also, we looked at getting students, again, from across the university to make sure we better represent the student body in SGA. And also, we looked at students who we knew were going to come to meetings, they're going to actually care about what goes on SGA, and are going to be willing to talk during meetings and present legislation that students actually care about.
So with senators, but also everyone on our campaign, Carson and I made sure that we were going to sit down and talk to everyone that's on our campaign to make sure that they felt absolutely pursued, because one expectation that we have for our senators is that whenever they get into that position, that they are willing and going to pursue the campus like the way that we pursued them. And if they didn't feel pursued at that point, then there is no way that they're going to. But then also, our senators are people who are on fire for this campus like Carson and I, people who go out every single day and they try to make their peers feel special, and they try to make sure that the volunteer spirit feels represented in every student's life. And they're people who are involved in things outside of SGA, people who have never been senators before, but also people who make sure that every student on this campus feels represented just by their being a student.
I think one thing that we tried to look for in each and every one of our senators was a real understanding of the issues on campus. We wanted to reach out to as many different organizations, as many different student populations around our campus. I'm proud to have a group of senators that represent over 127 organizations on our campus. It was really an organic process. I didn't really know where to start in recruitment, so it was a really humbling experience to have people come to us and say, "Hey, we want to be a part of Senate next year. I know you guys are running. How can we help?" And it's just been an honor to stand with the people that still stand with us. There's bumps along the road, but I couldn't be prouder of the people that are standing behind the Hardy Morris McCandless ticket.
Thank you. The next question will first be answered by Matthew, then Fuller, Mackenzie, and it regards the LGBT plus community. So on campus, this community often feels excluded from many SGA settings and on campus in general. This past year's Senate saw some pieces of legislation that addressed issues that are important to that community. However, they proceeded with a lack of administrative follow-through. As an elected member charged with representing all students, what are your plans to address these issues outside of just stating your support?
I think one thing that we can do to understand these issues is to create a dialogue between the student government and these communities. That means going out to vol out. That means sitting with the Pride Center and just sitting there and understanding where they're coming from and how we can best serve them. I think our entire campaign made an effort to be Safe Zone certified, and I think that was to help me understand, and I think that helped our entire campaign understand the issues that are facing these students. And I hope that we can create a university that makes a respectable and makes our students feel safe, whether that be any community, but especially the LGBT plus community.
I just want to start. I want to make sure that there is representation in SGA by the LGBT community, and we also, if we pass a bill in Senate and the administration says no, that's not the end. That's going to be the beginning. We want to start, like Matthew said, we want to start a dialogue, and we don't want to back down. We want to gather petitions and show that students actually care about these issues and it's something that they really want. And by doing so, we can push for these issues and get this legislation actually passed and implemented.
Yeah, so for SGA to effectively represent and make policy that represents people in the LGBT plus community, in order to do that, there has to be consistent relationships that are going on. You can't wait for that community or any community to come to you and say, "Hey, this is what we need. Can you help us out with this because we want to be represented by you because you're our direct representatives." We need to be having lunch and coffee with them on a regular basis. We need to be going to their events. It needs to be a consistent relationship, because until you do that, there's not that trust bond where they know that they feel valued and they honestly feel represented. There should be no us waiting for student groups, especially the most passionate student groups like this one, to be coming to us. We have to go out and pursue them and make sure that they know that they are going to be on our level, and we're going to be on their level every single step of the way.
Thank you. Okay, so this next question regards the tobacco bill that was passed within Senate almost 2 weeks ago. So McKinsey and Fuller, your campaigns were two campaigns that took stances against the tobacco bill policy that was recently passed in Senate. Matthew, although HMM does not have a stance on this bill, you came out as personally opposed to the initiative. However, all of your campaigns have senators that voted both for and against the bill. And various polls show a nearly even split on student opinion for that policy. Considering you all have senators who voted for this bill, how do you balance this disparity between the stances that you, either personally or via your campaign, have formally taken and the viewpoints of your senators?
Am I starting? Okay, so basically, the way I want to answer this question, so for me, I'm Mackenzie Patterson, I'm a nursing major. From a public health perspective, I understand smoking's bad for your lungs, it causes COPD, and among other comorbidities. You don't want that stuff in there. However, it's really not about my opinion or what I want to see happen to my body or your body too, because PSA, that's really not what we're going after. And so this is a good reflective time because senators can vote one way or another, but really what we want to instill in our senators is how, when you're voting, when you know a bill is coming up, how much research are you doing to figure out what your constituents really want to see? Because I can have my opinions, and I have a lot of reasons and a lot of bulleted reasons why I can think smoking's bad for you. I don't want to chew tobacco personally, but unless that's agreed by the general student body, and then I can then compromise with the minority opinion, then that's the only way we're going to be effective. It's not about the senator's opinion, it's about the student bodies. Thank you.
Well, like you said, Mariah, I personally did not believe in the bill, but that doesn't mean that we can't foster an open Senate that can, argue for both sides of the bill. I will never let my personal opinions stand in the way of healthy debate that represents the entire student body. It's not up to me as the president of the Senate or any senator to get in the way of that healthy debate. I appreciate both sides of the issue. I understand both sides of the issue, and that's how we felt about it.
I understand that some of our Senate candidates voted for the bill, and I'm proud of them for doing so. If their constituents went and talked to them, then they deserve to vote for it as they see fit. I talked to my constituents about the tobacco bill, and they told me they did not want this. This is not something we want. I want to have the right to smoke a cigarette outside the library if I'm feeling nervous or anything like that. And me and Alex Pennycuff, our presidential candidate, we spoke against it in Senate. Matthew Morris, he honestly kind of just sat there, even though he said he was against it. After the bill had already passed, he said on Facebook, "Oh, I was against it." I'm sorry, Matthew, but if you're setting a post on Facebook after the Senate meeting, and that's your best, then your best won't do.
Well, I guess I get a chance to address that. Thanks for bringing that up. Part of what that was about, as a Senate lobbyist, I've never wanted to stand in the way of creating the past legislation and bringing that to the administration. I have my own personal way of debating and legislating, and just being the loudest in the room does not make you always the best leader. I'm not afraid to stand up for what I believe in. Sometimes the best answer is to listen, to understand both sides of the debate, and that's how I chose to respond to that personal issue.
You have 30 seconds to reply if you want to, Fuller. Do you?
I'll just like to say, personal opinion aside, the students said that they didn't want it, and that's why I voted for it. And if you said you were against it, then you should have made a stance in Senate.
Okay. So this next question is to Mackenzie Patterson. As you have stated, you feel leadership is as important as policy. Do you feel you are at a disadvantage having the least SGA experience of the vice presidential candidates? And how do you plan to manage multiple branches in which you have no experience?
It's a good question. So I'm a smart lass. Yeah, and so I've done a lot of things on campus. I've been in a lot of roles. I've led meetings and I've worked with large groups of people as a leader and as a servant. And yes, I do believe that leadership is stronger than policy because it takes a leader to be able to enact policy that's representative of the constituents. And so really, that's great. That's great that Senate's got these different rules and regulations that help make it run a little bit differently than some student organizations. But I can catch up pretty quickly to where I haven't been in a meeting or two in the past, and that's okay. That's something that I can catch on to, and with the help of my senators and with my executive branches, I can learn just like the next person. That's totally fine, and don't worry, I can do it great.
Thank you. This next question is for Fuller Edwards. In contrast to other campaigns, you've stated that students who don't utilize a specific resource on campus, such as printing, shouldn't pay a fee for that. However, the first policy point of challenge was to add a brand new fort route for UT buses, which does not benefit all students who don't live in the fort or that area of the fort. How does the challenge campaign plan to pay for this while not increasing student fees?
Well, to begin with, before the sorority houses were built, there was no bus route there. When those houses were built, a bus route was added to those houses. If we show that students actually want this bus route and care about bus route and want to get to class, then showing for that support will add to will show that they want that Fort bus route, and if they've made it possible for the sorority village ladies that live there, then it should be possible for people living in the fort who want to get to class.
Thank you. This next question is for Matthew Morris. Your campaign has boasted that its members are responsible for 70% of the bills passed this year in Senate. What bills have you been a part of?
There's two bills that I'm really have been proud of, and one of those is reforming the student bylaws, or the student senate bylaws. I think, as we've already seen in the past few meetings that it's been implemented, it's really created a more open debate, a more open environment for student legislation to be passed. Another one that I'm really proud of is the drop without a W date. That's in the spring for a few of our students that personally came to me that responded, hey, I only got to meet with my class one time. I didn't really understand what the class was about and if I should drop that or not. So being able to extend the deadline for students that don't get to meet in the spring with their advisors or with their class to really see what that entails and to be able to not have the penalty of the W by dropping that class once they kind of realize more and more what's going on.
Thank you. And this is going to be the last question, in which we will have, what was the last order? Sorry. Fuller answer first, followed by Mackenzie, and then Matthew. So the bar scene on Cumberland Avenue has seen itself diminish recently. Given the impending demise of the bar scene, it is thought that more students will be forced to go further off campus when they go out. Do you see any safety concerns with this? And if so, what do you see as SGA's role?
I think SGA's role should be to try and bring that responsible drinking back to campus. I'm on SGA's Alcohol Policy Review Committee, and we've worked over the past several months to find an alcohol policy that fits for UT. And what we found is students of legal age should be able to drink on campus in their dorm room, apartment room, or private room. And if a student organization wants to hold an event and serve alcohol to students of legal age, they should be able to do so by submitting a site permit to the Division of Student Life. By bringing that drinking back to campus, it allows students to drink responsibly, have access to university resources, and they don't have to go out to either drunk drive to the old city or the fort for parties or something like that. And it keeps students safe.
So similarly, on my campaign, we also have an alcohol policy stating that we want a wet campus, and also in residence halls, residence halls that are predominantly housing students 21 and over, those that would be out of the bars. And so making sure with that alcohol policy, it's great. We want to have a wet campus. That's been a desire of the student body a long time coming. But where is the alcohol education in that? And where is the education for the threats that alcohol can come in general? So something that we also really care about on Hollingsworth-Patterson is the risk associated with sexual assault and the dangers that come with alcohol use like that. So it's important to really engage students in education, but also to do our research, which is why it's good that we have organizations like in the Center for Health Education and Wellness. There's Speakology training, and there are the Vols to Vols peer educators. We don't need the CDC's research to go and come up with programs that will do this on our campus, because that's what we already have, and we already have student leaders who are very passionate about it.
I think just like the other campaigns, our campaign hopes to improve the alcohol policy here at the University of Tennessee. Fuller mentioned event registration. That's one step in that process. But if students do choose to go to or that's one process that we're also supporting. But if students do choose to go into downtown Knoxville, I think they need to know more and more about the different services around this community that can provide them safe rides. There's Knoxville area transit buses that are available to all students, given a student discount, and I think that we need to promote that. I've also seen other SEC, SGAs implement university riding services to try and provide safe rides for their students. I think safety is a paramount issue to me personally and to our entire campaign. So also improving the safety outside of our campus by improving the lighting, by improving the late night T-Link system, and also improving the UTPD patrols.
Any responses?
I have a question for Mackenzie. Mackenzie, on your alcohol policy, why shouldn't students who live in Humes or Prescourt, they're of legal age, why shouldn't they be allowed to have the right to drink responsibly?
Okay. Yes. So you bring that up, and that's a good question. The reality of the situation is when a first-year student, probably a 17 or an 18-year-old, fills out their deposit and chooses a place to live, those are the places that they're going. And you have maybe a few, probably as many as you can count on your hands and toes, students that are above the age. And you also have buildings full of RAs and hall staff. I was an RA last year, and I know that those people work really, really hard to make sure that that's a safe environment. And Carson and I have been very intentional about making sure that we have conversations with those people and making sure, is this something feasible for you? Are you able to ensure the safety of your hall if this is a rule? And the answer is no. And so making sure that the campus is safe before we make sure that everybody gets to drink their booze, quite frankly, is more of an asset.
Please hold your applause. Thank you. You have 30 seconds to reply if you would like to, Fuller.
You talked about drinking responsibly, and I like to say, how you talked about freshman dorms, and you talked about the freshmen drinking. Well, these policy changes wouldn't be for the freshmen. They'd be for students who are of legal age. So I'm pretty confident they would be able to drink responsibly, and the RAs would be able to uphold the rules. And if a student is caught underage drinking, they would still be punished.
Yeah, and like I said before, the only thing about that is when we talk to resident assistants and hall directors about it, the people who you're hoping to enact policy on that has to go and use it in their residence halls, those are your constituencies at that point, and that's who you're representing, and that's who you're making policy for. So if you're not listening to those voices who are trying to ensure that students are safe, it doesn't matter who you're trying to support.
Thank you, everyone. And now we have 2 minutes each maximum, if you would like, for closing statements. These will begin with Matthew, followed by Fuller, and then Mackenzie.
I guess I just like to leave y'all with a few little tidbits about myself. I think a lot of SGA leaders in the past have been accused of not working from day one or not being focused on the student experience or the student body outside of election week. And I can guarantee you from day one, that is something that I'll strive to do each and every day that I'm in office. I could not be more excited to be able to see some of our positive policy enacted on our student bodies campus. I can guarantee you that I'm not doing this as a resume builder because if you look at my GPA or the lack of studying for the LSAT this summer that I've done, you can probably there's definitely easier ways to be doing this. I'm passionate about this university. I'm passionate about the student experience. This is not just a campaign or a university that is striving to become in the top 25. If that happens as a result of the student experience benefiting each and every student, improving, if each and every student can feel safe on and off our campus, if each and every student can trust their student organizations like SGA to represent them to administrators, but have a working relationship with those administrators and enact realistic, incremental changes to benefit every single student on our campus, then I'll be a very proud individual and a very proud vice president.
If elected the vice president, I want to make sure that we are a voice for the students. We want to tackle issues that students actually care about. And I'm proud to say that the Challenge campaign is supporting policies that students actually care about. And if elected, we're going to be pursuing those policies. And again, if the administration says no, that's not going to be the last step. That's not where it's going to end. That's going to be the beginning. We're going to get petitions. We're going to advocate. We're going to get student voice, and we're going to get the student opinion. And we're going to make sure that we follow through with these policies, and we actually do what we sought out to do, which is to be a voice for the students.
So the reason that SGA, the Student Government Association, exists is to represent the desires of students, find out what your convictions are, what you appreciate about this campus, why you love being at Tennessee Vol, why you're involved in the organizations that you're involved in. And that's a special thing. This organization needs to exist to represent the students every single day. And the thing about that is this university has smart, inspirational, wonderful people on this campus that consider themselves student leaders, but there's also people on this campus who would never go out and say, hey, I'm a student leader too. They still have desires for their 4-year experience, maybe more, maybe less, and they still want to see this campus give them the opportunities and the 4 years or 5 or 6 that they deserve. And so that's why SGA exists, and it exists to go out and avidly pursue and never stop and never quit trying to make sure that students are the first thing on the docket before any policy or legislation gets looked at. What are the students wanting most?
Thank you, everyone. That concludes our vice presidential debate. To the presidential debate. We have Jennings, Carson, and Alex speaking in that order for their opening statements if they would like to begin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jennings Hardy, and I'm running for SGA president because I believe in equal opportunity. I know that sounds like a really large statement to open with, but I think we all can see that we really care about the student body. Every single person here is passionate about every single person in this room and the people who are not in this room. But to start with, I believe in equal opportunity, and my 2 running mates do as well. I know that here at UT, I've had really incredible experiences. I've taken good classes with great professors who have challenged me to be the best student that I can be. I feel prepared to get a job after college or go to grad school, whatever I choose to do. But most importantly, I've been a part of student organizations like this one, and I've been around incredible people like you who, excuse me, I just like choked, who have taught me to be open-minded, who have taught me to listen to other people, and who have taught me that it's not about being selfish, it's about being selfless, and who have taught me what servant leadership means. I think the student body needs people like that. I think the student body needs to be open-minded and listen to each other and recognize that different experiences are what cause progress. Different experiences and different backgrounds are what enable us to, do things for the positive and make positive change on campus. I'm running for student body president because I'm advocating for incremental change that will make the daily lives of students better. I know there's not a single policy point that will make everyone happy. There's not a single change that we can do to make everything go away overnight. But I think we can make small changes that are actually feasible and that will make the daily lives of students better. So that's why I'm running. Yay. Woo.
Awesome. Well, hey everyone, my name is Carson Hollingsworth, and I'm running for the student body president position here in SGA. I'm doing it more rather than just because I wanted to go in the next position in SGA, more than for the title, more than just to climb the next rung in SGA. It's not about that. These positions are so much more than policy. They're so much more than just the internal organization. This is about being a representative for the entire university, for the entire campus community, for every single individual here, no matter what you are, and if you're Greek, if you're not Greek, if you're in certain organizations or not. This is about pursuing and truly representing every single single person here. I've been doing a lot of different things on campus, whether it's orientation or Ignite or serving as the vice president of IFC for recruitment. It's doing a lot of different things on campus and actually truly pursuing every single student, actually meeting with different students and other organizations and staying involved all 4 years here, all 3 years, and next year too as SGA president or whatever position I might have in SGA, assuming we're still involved next year with it. But making sure that we actually represent every single person here, making sure we're doing what matters for the students, making sure that we're being your representative, that we're pursuing you, that we're being there for you. Mackenzie and I are all about this. We're all about empowering every single student here at UT. We're all about going to you, going to meet in your meetings, going to talk to you, whether it be an hour like we did at NAACP or for 30 minutes. We're trying to have these conversations with people. We're trying to figure out what your convictions are, what you want to see done on this campus, and that's what we're so passionate about through these positions. We're not doing it just because it's the next thing to do in SGA, because we care about SGA. It's because we care about the student body and we care about this entire university community.
Sorry, I'm fighting off some allergies, so if I'm coughing up here, bear with me. Yeah, so as Fuller was saying earlier, I think if you would have asked us, 3 or 4 months ago, if we would ever be running for these positions, the answer would probably be no way. But in our time serving on Senate and dealing with a lot of different organizations on campus, we've seen the big disconnect between the administration, SGA, and the student body. It seems like right now that SGA is kind of just the bearer of bad news, and it doesn't really tackle issues that matter to the students. Right now, if a bill passes in Senate and the administration gives you a rebuttal, that's just the beginning. You have to go out, show support, and then when you go back to the administration, you have to have well-articulated and intelligent arguments, and you have to make SGA a voice for the students and not to the students.
Thank you. Our first question will be responded to first by Alex, then Jennings, and Carson. So while you're running for student body president, you're also running to be the president of the Student Government Association. So how are each of you involved in SGA, and why do you think that experience within the organization makes you the best candidate to fill that position?
Yeah. So when I look at what I've done in SGA, I also have to look at what I've done outside of SGA. My first year, as a freshman, I was not involved in SGA. I pledged my fraternity, and that's kind of what I did that whole year. And it was a real comfortable year. It was kind of a real comfort zone year. I didn't really meet anything. I didn't really see any different perspectives. But as a sophomore, I decided to get involved in SGA, and I joined the Student Senate. And I did things like the Leadership Institute this summer, and it was a really humbling experience, and it showed me a lot of different perspective. So through the different things that I've done on campus, I think I'm going to be a great president, and I think I can accurately represent the student body.
As Mariah said in the question, I think it's really important to consider involvement outside of SGA as well as inside of SGA. So as Carson said before, I've also been involved in a lot of different areas on campus, such as Orientation Leader and Ignite, my sorority, AOPI, SGA since freshman year. So ever since I got here, one of the first things that really took hold of me and made me really want to get involved at UT in general was freshman council. Paige Ashley and Jake Baker were SGA president and vice president that year, and they really showed me that even as a freshman, I can still do cool things too. And so as a freshman in freshman council, I ran for the parliamentarian position. I was on exec that year, and it really enabled me to learn a lot about the organization through freshman council and as a whole through student services and other things. Last year, I was a part of Student Senate, and I'm part of Student Senate as well this year. I've also been in government affairs, which is the student services branch. So throughout my 3 years at UT, I've been involved in all 3 branches of SGA, except for the new one, which is the judicial branch. Some things that I've done in SGA that I think are worthwhile considering are I passed a bill last year to add sorority village loading zones because I saw that there was an issue there, and so I used my position to address it. I'm told I have time, so thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. This is an important position for the entire student government because you're kind of like the mending force. So you're leading the executive team, but you're also leading the entire organization, while also representing it to the entire student body. So like Jennings said, I've had a lot of experience inside of SGA and outside of SGA. So within SGA, I've been in the freshman council. I've served as an advisor for the new members coming through last year. I've also served as the assistant student services director, like I am right now. So I'm able to see a lot of the communities, a lot of the different committees inside of student services, while also serving on different student committees in terms of administrative committees, like whether it be dining or financial and administration committees. I'm trying to just meet with administration one-on-one and in a group too, because I've had a lot of experience, like I said, within SGA and actually meeting with the administrators, meeting with all the different people and all the different branches. But I've also seen a lot of the different perspectives outside of SGA. If you go into anyone like the Greek community, especially the IFC community, I know they really don't feel like IFC or that SGA is really representing them well. So being able to see those different perspectives outside of SGA is really important, and I know I have that outside of SGA, and I've had a lot of experience, like the same as Jennings inside of SGA too.
Thank you. Our next question regards sexual assault, which has become a big issue on college campuses nationwide, and certainly on this campus with the recent lawsuits. Besides taking the expected stance against sexual assault, what specifically does your campaign see as SGA's role in combating this issue? This will be answered first by Carson, then Alex, and lastly Jennings.
So SGA's role in solving this issue and working on this issue it's not within SGA. It doesn't start there. It starts with going out to other organizations, whether it be volunteer educators or speakologists trained, going to people within the Center for Health Education and Wellness and doing your research on what's happening in there. While McKinsey and I haven't released like an official policy or backing on Facebook or anything like that, just because it's the thing to do because the campaigns do it, we are completely in support of that office. We're completely in support of that movement on this campus. We want to make sure we're doing what's right here for UT, what's right for the students, that everyone feels safe here, that everyone feels at home. And it's not done through creating even more like committees within the SGA about how we're evaluating sexual assault, because that already exists within the Center for Health Education and Wellness. It doesn't start by putting students on the sexual assault response team, because that's a FERPA violation if I've ever seen one. It's not about that. It's making sure students are comfortable going to these people who are trained professionals for this, going to different people and using your resources on campus first, and working with them and collaborating with them all throughout the next year, throughout the next 4 years, to make sure that we're doing what's right for these students who are experiencing these horrible, terrible things, and making sure we're doing what's right within the Office of Community Conduct and Standards here at UT too.
Yeah. I think kind of the biggest issue with sexual assault right now is when a person is a victim of sexual misconduct, they kind of feel attacked and they feel victimized. And we have to make sure that they feel nurtured and safe to report a sexual misconduct. The first thing that we do when you report a sexual misconduct is not read them their judicial rights, or, read them their legal rights. No, we have to show them mental and physical help and make sure they're safe and nurtured and that they are cared for. And we show that we stand together on the University of Tennessee.
Can I offer a rebuttal? Is that?
Wait until Jennings is done, and then you may rebuttal.
I would also agree that while these people experience these terrible things, they're going through a horrible time. They feel mentally defeated. They feel physically defeated. I think it's a very personal issue, and it's a very personal thing on whether or not you want to report it. So I think for my campaign and myself, we're advocating for a really preventative stance. I think we need to prevent these things from happening in the first place, because as we've seen through the Title IX issues and the lawsuit that's currently happening, it's too late when it's already happened. We need to stop these things before they happen, which is why we're advocating for a campus-wide bystander intervention program. The Center for Health Education and Wellness currently has this, but you have to sign up and become speakologist trained. I'm currently speakologist trained, but I think SGA's role, it doesn't begin with us, but it's definitely our responsibility to expand this and make people know the resources that are available to them. So we'd like to advocate for a campus-wide initiative that raises awareness about red flags, and so you can notice these things before they happen and prevent them from happening. If you're a bystander at a party and you see something creepy or see something that's not exactly right, you can do something about it. You can do something about it before these people are affected and it ruins their lives.
So really quick, like rebuttal to what Pennycuff said. I do agree that students have to feel comfortable about reporting this stuff and going to it. That doesn't happen by putting students on those response teams. That doesn't happen by putting your peers there. Those are trained professionals. Those are mandatory reporters who are on those places. Those are CSAs who serve those roles. To put a student on that board is honestly a disrespectful thing towards students who go through that kind of stuff. They don't want to see their peers there. They want to have people who will support them and people who will actually understand what's happening and know where to go to, know what the next step is, while also nurturing them and caring for them. And I know that will happen, especially with the new things that have gone through with the new sexual assault policies at UT, and that will happen in the future too.
Yeah.
You have 30 seconds.
I agree that there is a need for trained professionals, but I think that having a peer on a committee helping them can show them a lot. And it'll show them that they're not alone, and that it's a lot easier to talk to a peer than it is a trained professional. So I think having both will give a little bit better perspective on the issue.
No, I'm sorry. Since he was replying to your rebuttal. Next question, we're going to go back to alcohol policy for a minute. So all of your campaigns have released alcohol policies, which have already been spoken on, that allow legal consumption on campus. Yet your policies differ in their level of restriction that's still present. So what sets your policy apart from your opponents, and what makes it better? This would be answered first by Jennings, Carson, and then Alex.
So I think everyone knows that the alcohol policy is an issue on campus right now. It doesn't affect just Greeks, even though it stereotypically is known for that. It affects every single student here. I think everyone here also knows that my campaign and myself are advocating for wet weekends, and the other two campaigns are advocating for a wet campus. I personally would love to have a wet campus. I think that would be pretty great, but we all know that that won't happen in a year. That won't happen anytime soon. I think we're advocating for wet weekends because we know it's a lot more feasible. It can happen incrementally, like the change I was talking about in my opening statement. I think, as Fuller said earlier, I've been on the Alcohol Policy Review Committee this past year, and we've done a lot of research. I can't take the credit because there's like 10 other people who are a lot smarter than I am who have done the research too. But two things we're advocating for as well are event registration, where you can register to have alcohol at student organizations. So if you're a 40-year-old getting your PhD, you're allowed to have a glass of wine at an awards dinner. Similarly, we're advocating for being able to drink in private rooms if you're over the age of 21 and having a certain number of people in that room with you. Overall, we're advocating for the same changes. We're just doing it in a feasible way so that way we don't promise students things and can't follow through with it later.
So McKinsey and I's alcohol policy, we want to make sure we're doing it feasible as well. It's something that's been pursued by the students for a long time. We want to make sure if it happens right, and then it stays here, and we're doing it the responsible way. But something that's unique for our policy too is that we're going out from the other perspective. We want the educational component to be there. With the current campus climate, with all the Title IX lawsuit happening, with the different things that have happened on this campus over the past 5 years, we know that this isn't going to be a feasible thing. Administration is not going to accept this. The state government isn't going to accept this unless we have the alcohol education component into that, and we really ramp that up. We really want to work close hand in hand with the Center for Health Education and Wellness and make sure we have that component as well to make sure that this is done responsibly and effectively, to make sure that student safety is the #1 priority throughout this process. In addition to that, McKinsey and I are also advocating for having event registrations on and off campus, but we don't want to make it so that when the clock turns 12 at Sunday, you have to pour your alcohol down the drain, because a wet campus is like, it doesn't turn off and turn back on. It's something that needs to be pursued by and something that is utilized by students throughout the entire week. It just makes campus safety even worse during the weekends if you're just making it during the weekend, we feel like. We're trying to make it so that they're doing it in the most effective way and the most safe way possible, and that's what we're really going for, is the safety with this policy.
Yeah. So the alcohol policy that my campaign is presenting is essentially the same things as Jennings, except it's calling for an entire wet campus on every day of the week. Our main agenda in making UT a wet campus is safety. Safety matters just as much on Tuesday as it does Sunday. You don't make a UT a wet campus to encourage a culture of drinking or to promote wild weekends and binge drinking. You do it for safety, to move the traffic in the fort back onto campus.
Yes, you may.
I'd like to agree that safety is the most important thing, which is why all three campaigns are advocating for a change in the alcohol policy. Currently, it's inconsistent, so whether it becomes more strict or less strict, something needs to change. I also think this is kind of a point of information. It's not really a rebuttal. It hasn't been mentioned that other schools who have a wet campus policy also usually have a curfew for freshmen, so I don't really know if we want that.
You can have 30 seconds if you'd like to.
Yes, I think it's a little bit interesting that there's a bill being presented tomorrow in Senate, which is the alcohol policy that my campaign is presenting, and Jennings Hardy and Fuller Edwards are both presenting the bill. So I question why in Senate you feel okay to put your name on it, but now that we're on the campaign trail, it's not feasible.
Yes.
As I said earlier, these are not my ideas. These are not Fuller's ideas. These are not the campaign's ideas. This is the Alcohol Policy Review Committee, which has been together since last semester, and we're advocating for those two changes. If you guys want to tune in tomorrow, you can watch to see that I'm telling the truth. The two points that I mentioned earlier about event registration and over the age of 21 drinking in private residence halls, that's what our bill is, so I encourage you to tune in.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to our next question. So this position requires a great deal of interaction with administration within UT's campus, the UT system, and our state legislature. How do you plan on informing and sustaining these relationships to best serve SGA and the students? This will be first answered by Alex, Jennings, and then Carson.
I think it's important that when you're speaking with administration or state legislators, that you have to show respect to get respect. You can't demand things. And you have to show student support. So even if they don't agree with you, you go out and you rally and you gather petitions, and then when you talk to them, you have well-articulated, intelligent arguments, and you show them that you actually know what the students want. You know why they want it, and you know how they want it.
I would totally agree with that. I think something else important to consider is that when you're having conversations with administrators, you can't yell, you can't scream, you can't throw all these problems at them and say this is how you fix it. There has to be a working relationship that you establish. You have to prove to the administrators that you're someone they can work with, you're someone who can advocate for incremental positive change. That's what they want to see. They want to help us. We all want to have positive change on campus, but you have to do it realistically and politely and respectfully.
Exactly. This is a working relationship. I agree with Jennings, with the administration, with the state government, with everyone who's working in terms of the UT system. Something that I've seen is really common on this campus is people just love to call out administration. They call out, but instead we need to call them into what we're happening on campus. We need to call them into the conversations we're having in our different communities, the different student groups. We need to work with them and foster a relationship with them because it's not currently there, and it works. It takes a long time to figure that relationship out and make it happen in terms of SGA and the administration. It just happens by respecting them and also having the student voice behind you. So having more people vote in SGA elections, having people turn out, having people have their voice heard, and having us pursue the students. We want to know what the students think. We want to know what this majority thinks, while also knowing what the minority thinks on campus. Being able to be educated on the topics and know what's happening on campus and know what the students want, and presenting that to administration in the most effective way and the most respectful way possible is the way that you get things done on this campus and the way you get things done in the state and with our entire UT system.
Thank you. Our next question will follow Carson, Alex, and then Jennings in reply. So the Student Government Association stands by the motto that everyone is a member. However, it is well known that many students on this campus do not feel engaged within SGA or by SGA. What plans do you have to increase this student perception and buy-in to student government?
Right. So, McKinsey and I have been saying it while this entire campaign process has been going on. These positions, the SGA, it's about pursuing the students. It's about going out and talk to every single student that you can, showing different communities that you value them, showing them that you have trust in them so that they can trust you. It's about fostering all these relationships with different people, with different communities on this campus. It's so much more than just having a bunch of people in a room writing a bill or writing a piece of legislation. It's about going out. It's about pursuing them. It's about going to their events. It's about showing them that they have your support, that they have your trust, and that you can go out there and you can actively represent them because you know who they are, you know what they value, and you know what their convictions are on this campus. So I know it's all about outreach. It's all about going out to these different people and showing them that you value them and actually pursuing them and knowing that they are passionate about certain things, so that you can convey that to the administration, you can convey that to the state government. If anything, that was really seen, I think, this past semester with the diversity bill and the diversity issues happening on campus. It took a lot, but SJ went out and they figured out what was happening, and they were able to have fostering amazing communication and have a great collaboration with different people on this campus and make things happen in the state government.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that, the president is only one person. They can't accurately represent an entire campus. So you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with. One way that we did that is we did a lot of surrogate speaking when we went out and talked to different groups on behalf of the campaign. We went out and we talked to groups that, have never even heard of SGA. We went out and talked to the League of Legends Club. We went out and talked to women in STEM and showed them that, hey, SGA has a voice for everybody, and everybody is actually a member. No matter where you come from, no matter what you do on campus, we are all students here at the University of Tennessee, and we all matter.
I think both of them have made really good points, so I'd kind of just like to echo what they're saying. I think the buck stops with us, the people who are in SGA. It's our responsibility to make people buy into it. It's our responsibility to create positive change and give people a reason to care about SGA. Just as Alex said a second ago, we've been really making an effort to speak to every organization on campus as well. If you want to check out our Twitter, Matthew Morris is doing some yoga. It's a good site. When we went to spoke to the yoga club. But I think it kind of shows with our campaign that, we three can't do it alone, but we've really started by advocating and getting senators to run with us who represent all different areas of student campus. As Matthew said a second ago, over 127 organizations are currently represented just within our senators. I think that's a great start. It's not nearly enough. I'd also like to speak about Caitlin a little bit since she can't speak for herself. She's running for SSD with us, but she really headed up all those initiatives to go to the state and advocate for students' rights. She was the one who created the petition that got over 4,000 signatures advocating for students' rights and diversity on this campus. So I think we're really starting a great trend, and I think it's not nearly enough, but that's the direction that we'd like to continue in the future.
Thank you. This next question is for Jennings. So your campaign is the only one to not take a firm stance for or against the tobacco bill, while both other campaigns have been against it. In the past, you have stated that you feel that there is a split not only between students, but also between members of your campaign, and so you have not taken an official stance. Will you please elaborate on the reason you have chosen to abstain from siding one way or the other, and how you plan to lead an organization in which there are rifts on opinions?
I think I wouldn't even really call it a split in opinion. I think people all have different reasons for the opinions and the way that they voted. I personally voted for the bill. I think it's a great idea. I think other schools across the nation have advocated for smoke-free and tobacco-free campus. I know not everyone here feels that way, which is why Matthew voted against it. We know that senators on our campaign and on the other two campaigns as well voted for and against the bill. So we didn't feel comfortable making a blanket statement saying, here's how we feel one way or the other. You know, that would either mean that I was being untruthful about Matthew, or Matthew was being untruthful about me, or we were all being untruthful about our senators. I think it's important to know that it wasn't one of our initiatives that we were taking on as a campaign at the beginning, which is why we didn't feel the need to take a firm stance on this. But going forward in the future, as I said before, I think understanding people's different experiences and different reasons for things, you know, whether 10 people voted no, they all have different reasons for why they voted no. If 10 people voted yes, they all have different reasons for why they voted yes. And I think those opinions are really important to consider. I think it's a strength that Matthew and I don't have the same opinions and everything. It means that going forward, every student's opinion will be represented through SGA, and we'll have to explore opinions and issues fully before we make a decision about things.
Thank you. The next question is for Alex Pennycuff. It is common knowledge that in the spring semester, SGA passed a bill in support of the Office for Diversity and Inclusion. However, SGA also attempted to pass a similar bill in the fall, and you openly opposed it. Would you like to clarify why you've changed your stance on supporting the Office for Diversity and Inclusion, and expand on what you plan on doing to support diversity at UT's campus?
Yes. So we did not openly oppose the bill. This is what happened. When the Christmas letter came out during the winter, a lot of students were kind of outraged that they said that they do not encourage students to have Christmas parties on campus. A lot of our constituents reached out to us and told us, hey, we totally support the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, but we think we should be allowed to have Christmas parties on campus. So that's why and Vice Chancellor Hall was also not included in the bill, which is why we decided to go against the bill. And then when it was proposed again in Senate last time, when it was done correctly, it was a unanimous decision. We passed the bill.
Thank you. This next question is for Carson. As the ASSD this year, what specifically did you do to help address diversity issues on campus? And could you elaborate on your involvement in both government and diversity affairs actions regarding this issue?
Yeah, so as the Assistant Student Services Director, my primary role is to help Mariah whatever she needs done, and also to support all the different committees in the Student Services branch. In terms of the diversity issue, I never really attended the Government Affairs Committee's meetings on Sunday. I was not able to attend those, but I attended multiple diversity affairs meetings and heard the conversations and knew what was happening on this campus. And not only that, but I also went to different meetings around this campus and heard what the students wanted to get done through this bill and what they wanted to happen in the state government. Like whether it be the demonstration that happened at the Ole Miss game. I know Mackenzie and I went out and we talked to people who helped organize that, and we were present at the different events that led up to that to talk to people about why they were doing it and what they hope to get done with it, and to talk about how it's about forming a relationship with the state government and making sure that they know what we want on this campus, and they know that that bill and that what they wanted wasn't what the students wanted here at UT. And we were so passionate about making that happen, and I'm making sure that we're actually going out there and hearing what they want and hearing what the students want. It's not just about what's happening inside of SGA and what's happening in those two committees inside the student services. It's about what's happening outside of that and all the different communities here at UT.
Thank you. And this last question will be answered first by Jennings, then Carson, and then Alex. So, at the end of February, there were many instances of sick raccoons being spotted on the agriculture campus. I tried. I really tried. How in your position would you lead at a time when there's heightened alert for a specific group on campus?
I'm not really an expert on rabid animals, so I think in that case I would ask for advice from our biologists that we have here on campus. But in all seriousness, I think that in times of heightened awareness and emergencies, I think that it's not always true that I would know the right answer, and I think it's important that as a leader to know and recognize your strengths and weaknesses. I would probably ask for advice from someone and recognize when I don't know the answer to something and ask someone who I know who does, like an expert on the issue, and advocate for that as best as I could.
Yeah. For me personally, it's the same. Like, it's not about what you know. Like Mackenzie and I've been saying, it's not just the two perspectives. It's not just one perspective. It's going out and hearing like what needs to be done on this campus. And if it's a situation like that, a little bit, it might be a little more serious than rabid raccoons on the ag campus. It's about actually knowing what's happening and talking to the people that know what's happening and talking to the people who are professionals on this campus and actually reaching out. It's not the SGA president that's this role. It's the student body president. You're representing a lot of different people. You're representing a lot of different communities. So making sure you're using every single resource possible to make sure whatever happening on campus is done through the right way and done for the right reasons for the students is what you need to make sure happens. And I know I'd make sure that happens and talk to whoever I need to talk to hear the right perspective and hear what needs to happen on this campus.
Yeah, so like Jennings and Carson, I am also not an expert on rabid raccoons. But we have to know, kind of like they just said, you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. And that's kind of why we decided to run on as challenge and not our last names. I'm not up here, telling you why I'm the best or why you should go out and vote for me, but you should go out and vote because we have a vision for SGA, and we're a team. And one person cannot lead SGA. It is the vision that we have for it.
Thank you. And now we have 2 minutes each for closing statements. First is Alex, then Jennings, and then Carson. And that will conclude, following that, the presidential debate.
Yeah, so with voting starting tomorrow, I think it's really important to look at voter turnout. When you look at our counterparts in the SEC, like Georgia and Alabama, they have 40 and 50% voter turnout, as opposed to, our 13.8 last year, which was an increase. Those SGAs tackle issues that actually matter to students and actually affect students in their everyday lives. That's why we're running. We're running to tackle issues that actually matter to students and to make SGA a voice for the students and not to the students.
With SGA elections starting tomorrow, I encourage all of you to do your research on your candidates, including the three of us up here, and take a look into see who's been making positive change on campus since day one. I think all of us really care about the student body, but I'm running for student body president, and my candidates are running with me because we want to represent every single student's voice on campus. Like I said earlier, different perspectives, different experiences are all what make this campus amazing and what will cause progress in the future. We want to do our best to be able to advocate for every single student here, and we're going to create common ground through doing that.
So Mackenzie and I are doing this not because, like I said, it's the next ring in SGA to climb. It's not for the title. It's because we want to represent every single student here at UT, every single different community here at UT. You'll see a lot through this process. You'll see a lot of stuff about policy. You'll see a lot of people talking about policy this, policy that, legislation, and a lot of this stuff has been about things that have happened in Senate that they've talked about tonight. But folks, it's not about that. These positions, this process is about making sure you're electing leaders in these positions who will do what you need on this campus. It's about you're electing people who care about you, who care about what this campus will look like in the next future, in the next few years, and also what's happening right now. It's not about the policy. It's about what's happening around us. It's what's happening in our community and in the state government too. A year ago, when Will Madison got elected, they didn't have policy on if the funding for diversity and inclusion was going to be taken away. They didn't have policy for if the code of conduct was going to be rewritten and they were going to take away student representation. But they were able to step up and be leaders in those roles and what happened with that. And I know Mackenzie and I will be those people for you all. We'll be able to step up and work our butts off for you guys. We're so passionate about this place, and we care so much about this university and so much about the student body. We're doing it for the right reasons. We're doing it for what matters for this student body, not for what matters for SGA or for Mackenzie or I. We're doing it what matters for you. And I can't convey that enough. We're doing it because we're passionate about this entire student body. The people we've met here, the different things that we've done, it's made us who we are. And we're so grateful for that. And we want to serve you guys. We want to serve this university and serve this entire community. And I would be extremely grateful to be able to have this opportunity to serve you all and serve everyone through these positions.
Thank you, everyone.